Let me just check everything's working correctly. We have a chat, hopefully on the right hand side. Timo, Greg, Tim, hey everyone. Everyone say hi to Ed. Ed, thanks very much for taking the time.
Yeah, of course. Pleasure to be here.
Appreciate
Hey
it.
guys, good morning.
Well, we'll give it a couple of minutes for people to roll in. Let me just check all the channels, etc., etc. Whereabouts are you, Ed?
São Paulo, Brazil.
Got it. Okay, nice. Cool. Anybody else from South America here by chance?
Maybe. It's early. It's 8 a.m. So not sure.
Yeah, okay, a little bit. Maybe,
I
mainly
think
Europeans here today, I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Gotcha. Cool. Hey, Tim. Hey, Emil. Simeon. Oh, not early start from the US. Okay, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, man. Let's tuck into it. So the reason why I want to speak to you is I saw the tweet go out, and that obviously did some numbers, and it was good to see an epic use case. So should we actually, to start with, let's see if I can bring it up, and maybe we can run through it to start so everyone's on the same page, and then we can talk about it. Is the voice, can everyone hear me okay, see me okay before we start? Let me know in the chat. Hopefully you can. Okay, cool. All good. UE, nice. So let me share my tab, which is here. Okay, this is the tweet.
Yeah.
See that? Okay, I'm going to read through it. So this is from Ed. It said, a pool services company came to my team wanting an AI agent built to help them with their sales process. This company had a list of 150,000 leads, and they wanted to create an AI agent to call all of the leads to sell them the pool services. We created an AI agent using Synthflow to make these calls, and we created a fully automated SMS sequence to text the leads to. Once the call was made, we created an automation to automatically update the CRM database. This update was made based off the outcome of the call, answered, no answer, interested, etc. We did the same for the SMS sequence. We created an automation to also update the database with the reply from the lead. If the reply was positive, we automatically sent the lead to the sales rep to have a conversation with the prospect. If the reply was negative, we automatically removed them from the sequence. These automations combined together allowed them to contact the entire database of leads. If done manually, this would take months to get through 150,000 contacts and would have eaten up hundreds and hundreds of hours doing this. But with AI and automation, this company was able to not only save time, but also generate dozens of opportunities that are now converting into new clients for their business. That's how powerful AI agents are. Then we get a link to your newsletter there. So if anyone is on X, go ahead and follow It's Ed Axe on X. That's awesome breakdown. So give me the intro, give me the rundown of you, how long you've been using Synthflow, how long you've been in the automation space, and then we'll dive into exactly how you did that and how you implemented it.
Of course. Just a bit about myself. So I've been building automations for the past, I'd say, 8 years. Before that, I used to work at Procter & Gamble, and then I worked at Google for 5 years, and then I quit the job at Google to start my first startup in 2017. It was an AI platform, not the very smart AI that we have today, but like it was the dumb AI at the time. It was an AI platform for HR departments for big companies. That's when I started to learn more about automation because I used automation to help scale my startup. I sold the startup on 2021. And then I decided to start my own AI automation firm to help other entrepreneurs do the same as I did, to help them scale using automation and AI. So I've been creating first, like I started creating content on Twitter, on X, and some other platforms about with like AI and automation approach. And then yeah, I created the agency like 3 years ago, before all these like AI boom. So before ChatGPT, before any of these new technologies. And yeah, I think we were probably one of the first like AI automation firms back then. And yeah, we have been building automations with AI for a lot of companies now. I think we have um, almost 200 clients by now. And yeah, and I think like with SyncFlow, um, yeah, we started using SyncFlow, I believe, more than 1 year ago or so, to help us kind of automate some of our clients' process, because like I would say 90% of the systems that we build are 100% custom built.
Mhm.
So we first kind of understand our clients' operations, and then we go and we build the system that are going to automate that particular process, right? Um, and yeah, so we have been using Synflow for a lot of different use cases. That was just one use case, but we have many others like that one, and with some other like different scenarios and use cases as well. And usually, what we do is we always use Synflow as part of a bigger automation, a bigger system, right?
Yeah.
Because and I think that's one of the powerful things about SyncFlow, is the like easy to integrate and connect to
Mhm.
different platforms using API. We use the API a lot, so that gives us a lot of flexibility in terms of the systems that we can build with SyncFlow.
Did you start doing just normal, say, like Zapier make automations or custom automations? And how? What was the reason for progressing into voice? Was it just when it became kind of like viable as like a service offering, or was there like a particular moment in time where you added voice into the mix?
Yeah, so of course, when I started with automation, I started with Zapier, because it was like I think the only platform in 2017 or 2018 back then, that allowed us to create those types of automation. Then of course we evolved, and then we built automation not only with Zapier Make, but like with custom scripting, Python, JavaScript, a lot of custom API calls, and we use some other platforms like PipeDream and some other ones. But with SyncFlow, I think is when we found out about the possibility that we could use AI, because a lot of the different processes that we automate, especially like on the sales side, on the customer service side, we could only automate until a certain point of the process, right? Like we could just automate, for example, the process of sending out emails
Mm.
after the qualification call, but we could not automate the qualification call, for example. And then with SyncFlow, it like gives us that possibility to also automate that particular task about calling or receiving the call. So yeah, I think it was great. And of course, the technology started to evolve and started to become more and more like human like. So yeah, it gives us a lot of different use cases that we could build for our clients as well.
Got it. And the use case you spoke about on X, was this the like first large scale calling campaign you did? 150,000 leads is quite a comprehensive
Yeah,
campaign.
yeah, I think it was the first a big volume campaign that we did, and of course, in like say in that scale, because again, like AI voice agents, like it allows us to use for many different use cases, right? Of course, maybe when you think about AI voice agent, you always think about like doing large scale outbound calls like this case.
Mhm.
But yeah, like but there are many other like use cases that we have been seeing like very successful results when it comes to automating even like lead qualification, even like in low volume scenarios. So
Mm.
it's been great.
Nice. So was the pool use case specifically, was that an
Mhm.
existing client where you proposed a new solution, or was that like a new client that came to you to say, "Can you do this for us? We've got all these leads."
Yeah, it was a new client that wanted to do that. Like the of course the client already had like a large lead database that he wanted to call, and not only call just once, but also he wanted us to create a system to do one call, to do follow up calls as
Hmm.
well if we didn't get the answer that we needed. So yeah, to create that system, right? Again, not just to do like a one shot large scale like call, but also to create a system that allows us to do like some follow up calls, and also, which is very important, as I mentioned on the tweet, but also like using like a multi-channel approach, right? Not only the
Hmm.
calling part, but like integrating with SMS and in some cases even like email. It's really important. Not only relying on the calling part, but also be able to use the multi-channel approach so you can make sure that the calling will be more effective, right?
Got it.
So that's why I mentioned like the possibility that SyncFlow gives us when it comes to like creating those like larger systems integrating with different channels and approaches there.
Got it. And what does that like workflow look like, and where are you building it? Are you building using the like native workflows inside of Synthflow? Are you using Zapier? Are you running like custom integrations and API and your own setup? What does that look like?
Yeah, so I used custom APIs using Make. Of
Mhm.
course, Make now has, I think, was recently launched the integration with Synflow, but back then we didn't have that connection. So I created a custom API call to trigger the calls, and also, of course, to get the webhook from when the call was completed to update the database, right? So the
Mhm.
client was using like just a like basic like Google Sheet database with all the leads. So we use the database to trigger the calls and also to manage in which stage of the let's say of the flow each lead was, right? So if it was the first call, if it was the follow-up call, so we created many different scenarios for each stage of the flow, and also once the call was completed to get the webhook and to update the database, to send the SMS all through Make, and using the custom API call for Synflow.
Got it. That's I think one of the key things that is a big unlock for people when they can create like the first workflow to call through like a series of numbers in a controlled way rather than doing either like a manual trigger or like a manual update and reviewing the calls. When you're calling that many numbers, how do you batch it? Are you calling and we obviously have things like concurrency limits, etc. How many calls are you placing over a period of a time? And for this big list, did that take you say like a week, a few days? Like what? How did you space it out?
Yeah, and I would say like, and that's one of the benefits of using a tool like Make in combination with Synflow, because you can really manage it. Because for example, in Make, you can select the time frequency that you want to trigger the calls,
Mhm.
but also how many calls you want to trigger at once, right? So in that case, we were triggering like 100 calls, and I think it was every 50 minutes or so.
Mhm.
But like you can really manage that, and then of course that was something that we were always testing and updating to make sure that we're getting like the best outcome possible that we wanted. So we always okay, like now let's try with 100 calls at a time. Now let's try it with 50, and then we can increase instead of triggering every 15 minutes. Let's trigger every 5 minutes, for example. So that's why again it's important to use like a tool like that to manage the trigger part of the automation in that sense. And of
100%.
course, as the trigger was basically through Google Sheets, then you can kind of control like how many rows or how many leads were
Mhm.
entering the flow.
Got it. Okay. What are some of the like pain points you encounter when doing that, when scaling up from say like 10 calls at once to 100 at once to feeling confident that your flow is doing everything that you wanted to do?
Yeah, I would say like first is finding the optimal setup to avoid any server errors from like even like from Google Sheet that sometimes it happens, and from even like some other kind of modules there on the make scenario. So like again, finding that optimal setup is important. It's not something that happens at once. You need to iterate, you need to test and check the outcomes. So I think that's one of the key parts. So that's why it wasn't just a set up and forget type of automation. So that was a first one. The other one is again on the calling side, making sure that the client will actually pick up the phones, which is of
Mhm.
course is important. So that's why again the multi-channel approach really helps. So we would, for example, send an SMS prior to call
Okay.
that leads okay, like we are from the pool company. We're
Mhm.
gonna call you based on your to talk about your pool, to talk about the service that we provide, and then we trigger the call, right?
That's
So
good. So they're
this kind
expecting
of
the call
approach,
almost.
yes, exactly. So that kind of
Yeah,
approach helps a
nice.
lot.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I actually haven't seen many people do that before. That's a good one. Where was did you have you tested things like that where like email or call or text after? What did you um find converted the best into leads? And I guess this campaign did generate quite a few leads for your customer.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yes, we tested it, and again, there wasn't like the first case that we built for outbound. Of course, it was I'd say like the first big volume, but we had built similar ones before, and sending the SMS before the call and after gives us like I'd say the best returns, and also with the follow-up calls, right? So
Mhm.
not of course, especially as this was a some sort of a code database, so it was important to make sure that we sent out the SMS. For this particular case, email didn't work because we didn't have the emails for like everyone, and also like again, it didn't work that well with email, but I would say like with like SMS and also calling, it worked. And also like one thing that we are starting to test for another client is to send the SMS with the blue text for like the iMessage one. It gives us it's giving us
Ah.
even better results.
So how are you doing that?
So there is a tool. Let me get here the name of the tool because I forgot.
We can
It
do it
was
on
an
screen
API.
share too. If there's one, if
It's
you
called
want a screen share,
SendBlue. Yeah, let me just. It's called SendBlue.
send
Um,
blue.
SendBlue. Yeah.
Okay, I'm just gonna move this to a big screen so I can check some stuff out too. Okay, that's awesome. That's a nice little tip or hack for somebody.
Yeah. So this is the one. So you have, of course, you have an API here that you can
Okay.
connect to, and you can send as a like an iMessage
No way, that's so
um,
cool.
text. So yeah, it's so again, it has an API, so you can integrate this into your workflow. So you can definitely like gives us way better results.
You
So
so you're plugging that
that's
into
definitely a
Make.
hack.
All your scenarios live in Make, you
Yeah,
just
yeah,
say.
into Make.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. So, like, of course, using the custom API call module within Make.
Nice. Yeah. Who's the Make gurus on your team? Are you the guy? Is there a few of you? Because they can get quite
Yeah.
complex
So
quite quick.
yeah. So I know I've been working with Make a lot now. So yeah, I'm building the Make scenarios, but we have two other engineers who are like Make experts. We are also Make partners, so we are gold partners for Make. We are on the
Okay.
top three US based Make partners. So yeah, we build all our stuff because, of course, we also build on Zapier and other platforms. But I think that Make gives us more flexibility to build more advanced workflows in that sense.
Gotcha. Okay, nice. Is there any other tools that you integrate into your flows like that one?
Sometimes we use PipeDream when we had to use more as a custom scripting because it has a great functionality to add your own JavaScript code. You can add JavaScript to Make using the custom JS module.
Mhm.
So that's another hack as well. So
Okay.
there is a module for Make called custom JS, so you can add your own JavaScript. But pipe dream sometimes. But yeah, I would say 70% of our automations are within Make.
Gotcha. And with when you're making calls and you're getting the response back from a webhook back for a completed call, and then you've got the call outcome, are you how many different like branches are you branching? Are you doing completed call, failed call, left voicemail, no answer? Are you doing all of them and then routing them in different directions, or are you just doing the more common ones?
Yeah, I do all of them. And also what I usually do, of course, that would depend on the use case, but I also like to add a AI module, like using OpenAI, for example, to analyze the call transcript and to get the output that I need, right? So, for
Hmm.
example, regarding the sentiment of the call, regarding the interest level, or some more, because then, of course, it, it gives us more flexibility in that sense. So sometimes I also use an additional AI step there
Mhm.
to then, depending on the output of the AI step, to also create other branches in that,
Ah,
in like
okay,
after
nice.
the workflow.
So just like a cheap AI call to analyze the transcript with like a GPT mini model or something, or
Yeah,
whatever, whichever one is. Nice, that's a good idea.
yeah,
What sort of stuff are you looking for out of the script to push into different directions?
yeah. Again, it depends a lot on the use case. So even, like, for example, to do a double check on, to make sure that it's not a voicemail, even to analyze the sentiment of the call, the level of interest of the lead, for example, and like to extract some sort of information that for example, of course, we always use the information extractor from SyncFlow, but sometimes we want like deeper analysis on
Hmm.
that sense. So we use the AI step for that, because then we can, and sometimes we create a custom GPT, a custom assistant there, trained on the client's data, to then
Hmm.
analyze the call and to match with what the client is kind of wanting in terms of lead qualification, right? So that's why there are sometimes that we use AI for that.
Nice, that's a good idea. So you're not just relying on the strict call outcome; you're like double checking that after the fact to make sure it is absolutely correct.
Yes, correct.
Smart.
It helps us a
Good
lot.
idea.
Yeah,
Amazing.
yeah.
What's with this call outcome you're doing, was this a Spanish campaign? So were you using English or were you using Spanish for this? Or
English,
Portuguese? English. Or is it
English.
was it an English
Yeah,
client or was it an American client or
90% of our clients are US based companies.
gotcha. I was just thinking with you being in Brazil, did you say?
Brazil.
Brazil,
Yeah.
because I know that like Spanish assistants or Portuguese assistants aren't as good or as reliable or as consistent as English, just standard LLM transcribe and nuance there. So we've had a few people asking
Yeah.
when that's going to catch up. So that's going to unlock a huge market down there too, I think.
Yeah. A huge market here because no one, for example, like we don't work almost like at all with like Brazilian companies, but like that is like no one doing like voice agents here in the country. Like it doesn't exist, right? So I
Hmm.
think definitely, and then also like with Spanish, of course, even in the US, it's definitely like a huge market.
Mhm.
But yeah, you unlock a lot of opportunities for Singapore here.
Crazy. We've got a question from Timo. He said, assume I got the enterprise plan. Is there any specific rules of thumb when I should contact Cisco to get an enterprise plan? Are you using enterprise or are you just on an agency or pro plan?
It was the agency one.
Agency plan. So are you giving your clients white label access to it or are you just keeping that and then just using it for sub accounts and assistants?
Yeah, it depends, right? So we have clients that they already have their Simple account, so we can work out of their account, so that's
Mhm.
fine. For new accounts, sometimes we all white label. And now we are one of the Simple solutions provider partners.
Mhm.
So we got the goal is to help the client set up their accounts and to grow their accounts. So yeah, it depends on the client.
Nice. Let me. We got one from Victor here. I need your details out. I'm living in Brazil, but doing digital marketing for UK-based clients. Seems like a good matchup.
Nice. Yeah,
Nice.
for
That's
sure.
cool. So, how many you do you find most people want to have their own Syntho accounts, or are they happy to use a sub account from you? And I guess follow-on question to that, in case there will be agency owners watching this at some point. How do you structure your deals with clients? There's obviously a number of ways to do it, but have you found one that works best for you guys?
Yeah, so basically there are three types of um, projects, and of course we price accordingly. So let's say like the first one is just some help with prompting. For example, okay,
Mhm.
like the assistant is not working well. Can you help me optimize the prompt so we can have like a better output? And then that's one type of project. The other one is create like some basic connections with like even like Go High Level, HubSpot, and some
Mhm.
other like CRMs. And then the third one would be creating like more advanced systems using custom API calls and connecting to
Mhm.
more complex platforms out there. So that's why like it depends on the complexity. So that's why we kind of create these three buckets. And there are a lot of clients that we are pitching them voice agent as because like for a lot of clients, and this is just like taking a step back, a lot of clients reach out to us say, okay, Ed, help me add AI into my business, right? Or help me add automation to my business. And like that's very broad. And I always say, okay, like what problem are we trying to solve? So
Mhm.
first, let's do an audit. And we created our own methodology here, which is called like AI automation audit process. We created our own methodology to interview, to run surveys, and to identify our automation opportunities for the company. And
Mhm.
a lot of times we identify opportunities to add AI voice agents. So for a lot of our clients, AI voice agent is something completely new. They don't know about it. They don't know about SyncFlow. So for those clients, most of the times we use our white label instance, right?
Got it.
But for the clients that they already know about SyncFlow or they want to have their own account, then we can help them set up their own account from scratch or help them optimize their current account. So it'll
Hmm.
depend on the use case.
Got it. And more of like a agency specific question. When you do these deals, are you charging a traditional retainer model? Do you do a like half upfront, half on completion model, and then into a management thing? Are you looking for like usage-based contracts? Because I know everybody structures them differently. So interesting to hear how you do it.
Yeah, so we typically charge a project fee, upfront project fee. Depending on the size of the project, we can split
Mhm.
50-50, but it's usually the full project upfront. And then we have an optional maintenance monthly fee if the client wants us to keep kind of updating and optimizing their automations. Again, we're not typically it's not just about like the prompting, it's about the whole system. So usually they will need help to keep the systems updated, to fix any issues, any bugs, etc. So we have like an optional monthly fee support plan.
Nice. Okay. Sounds pretty straightforward. There is, let's go grab a couple more questions. We can go through some of these, and I don't know if there's any screen shares you can do, Ed. Let's see any high level like workflows that you like how you structure them without revealing anything personal. Is that have you got anything that you could share?
Um, Let me check. Yeah, for that particular account, I
No
cannot
pressure.
because it's on the client's account. Yeah. Let me
Let me
see
bring up
if I can find.
a couple of questions. I'll ask a couple of questions. What do you think? Got one from Emil. He says, Have you tested alcohol with English voice agent in countries where other languages are spoken? If so, what is the conversion rate, higher or lower? How do you mean alcohol?
Mm,
Is alcohol another
I think it's
platform?
outbound, maybe, or maybe
Outbound.
outbound. Yeah. Yeah.
Got it.
Um, no, I haven't tried that, and I wouldn't recommend because I imagine that the conversion rate would be very low. I
Yeah.
guess, like for example, here, just taking like Brazil as an example, like, or even if you take like more developed countries, maybe even in Europe, not sure if that because you'll be suspicious at least, right? So you're getting a call in English, like I don't know, it's
Like
yeah,
using
it
a
looks
Spanish number
suspicious.
or yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it
And
doesn't
also if
make
you get your
sense. Yeah,
number reported as spam too, then you just get
yeah, that would be bad.
banned or flagged from
So
Twilio, etc. So
yeah,
yeah,
so that
makes
would
sense.
be so yeah, even like for any like outbound, that's why it's really important to make sure that you register the number, go through all the like HTTP process. That's really important as well.
Yeah, 100%. We've got one from Greg. He says, how do you generate this pool cleaning lead? Interesting niche I did not think of.
Yeah, for that particular client, the client already had the lead database, but we have built automations to also scrape leads and find leads from many different sources, even like through Google Maps API, try to then enrich with Instagram handle and
Hmm.
some other types of data as well. So we have built systems where we first try to find the lead. So then we use that lead the data that we found to actually call those leads. So that's something that we have done before as well. And again, it depends on the type of lead, right? So when it comes to a more like home services, like the pool service company, is like Google Maps,
Hmm.
Yelp, and some other data sources. When it comes to more, I'd say like agencies, like B2B, then of course you can go through like LinkedIn and some other sources as well.
Got it.
So it depends.
So you got that through doing like a cold outreach campaign through a scrape lead, or was that an inbound one? I guess.
For this particular case, it was an outbound. So we had already the lead
Nice.
database. And we just triggered the call. But yeah,
That's
but
cool.
again, even for outbound campaigns, for a lot of our clients, they don't have the that database, right? They don't have the leads. So we also need to create a system to get the lead, to find the leads before
Gotcha.
triggering the sequence, right? So
Cool. Makes sense. Alex asked if you got the stats on this, Ed, but what were your conversion rate in that project with 150K leads, and were the leads warm, cold, MLQ?
Yeah, I don't have the specific conversion rate. I know that they grew their revenue in like 30 something percent, 30, 34, I think. But of course, the conversion rate is not going to be high, right?
Mm.
Because it's a very cold database. For that particular case, it was a very cold database, and that's why they wanted to do like this high volume with like multiple steps type of workflow, because it was very cold. They needed to warm up those leads.
Mhm.
So that's why it was important to do like not only just one call, but like lots of follow up calls, and also with multiple SMS, text messages, and some other channels as well. So that's why that was important, because it was a very cold database in that sense. So,
Yeah,
but
makes sense.
again, like when I build systems like that, or when I'm suggesting clients to build systems, like I would say, okay, like that definitely will help you with sales increase, but
Mhm.
also most importantly, it will help you save a lot of time. A lot, because like they were gonna call those leads anyway, right? So imagine how many people they will need, how long it would take for them to call and to qualify, or even to try to book an appointment, sell to all
Yeah.
of those leads.
How many
So I think
employees
like
would quit halfway through that process, and then you have to rehire people?
exactly. So it's insane, right? So then you can use the time of your team to actually try to sell, actually try to talk to
Mm.
very, very qualified leads, right? So that's I would say, like one of the biggest benefits of building a system like that is you can really save time. And most importantly, you can use your time and your team's time to focus more on high touch, on strategic type of task and process there.
Gotcha. Nice. Makes sense. We Johnny says this might not be relevant for you. Where would GDPR come into play for European outbound? So I guess for like cold outbound, that's tricky to do GDPR. So you'd have to have consent at some point to trigger that call. So this could be when if you have let's take like a recruitment example. If you have like a candidate in a database, um, if they apply to a job, they also like check a form to GDPR that they're willing to be contacted by a recruiter. There's other GDPR things that you have to say, but Synthflow is GDPR compliant, so you have the option to cancel voice recordings, so the call can't be recorded, for example, or mention on the call that this call is being recorded, or you're getting this call because you applied for a job that we hosted on our website and we have your CV, for instance. So every business use case will be different, but probably not the best thing to go and buy like a huge database of cold leads and then start spamming them with phone calls trying to generate some business. That's probably like the wrong way to go about it. We've got one from Alex. He says, more of a question regarding synthflow and AI calls in general. How do you handle background noises, especially when somebody talks in the background? We experience the problem that the bot tries to answer the background voice/noises. Any
Yeah. So
advice there, Ed?
yeah, there are some kind of assistant configuration that you can adjust to avoid that. But of course, like if I don't know, like that you are calling a lead and the lead is in a room full of other people, it can mess up the call.
Mm.
That can happen, right? Because you don't know who is talking, or like it can definitely mess up the call. But you can adjust uh, um, the level of like sensitivity that you can have with the assistant there, to avoid that type of issue there.
Mhm.
So, and I guess like I would say like that's also um, one of the things that I think that was something that you launched, I think was last year, but that possibility to adjust your system to that level, right? So
Mhm.
that's great, because I built a system to test many different configurations to try the best outcome. And again, you depend on the use case, but yeah, I would say like you can adjust to a certain level, but depending on the noise level that you have on the background of the lead call, like it can mess up, right?
Yeah, it's
So
just tricky in general. And how important is like voice selection in having a good outcome in a campaign? Say from 11 Labs.
yeah, so like from my particular view, like I don't worry that much about the voice selection. Of course, I have the ones that I like to use the most, or the ones that I've used before and generated me great outcomes. But I think that the system setup, the system configuration, and the prompt are way more important than the voice specifically, right? But of course,
Mhm.
if you just select a good voice, a good enough voice, you can be either like male or female, like it's gonna work well. So I see like a lot of people is stressing a lot about like what specific voice, but I don't have that type of word. Like the voices that you find on Simflow, the voices, of course, that you can get through the 11 Labs connection,
Yep.
they are great, and they are good to go, I'd say.
Okay, nice. And how about getting into the nitty gritty of prompting for a minute? What's the maybe a couple of questions actually? What's the number one thing that your clients struggle with when coming to you that they want resolved or want to for you to attempt to resolve for them? What's like the most common like slipping up point? And then secondly, what is like how do you standardize your prompt structure? So for instance, it may be like background information of the agent, and it might be additional information at the bottom. Then you have your script. Then you might have like an FAQ section or a decision tree or like whatever it is. How do you go
Mhm.
about like standardizing that for to get the best outcomes for your clients?
Yeah, so it's like the number one issue that I see is having um, too much information that they don't match. Sometimes they're
Mhm.
like you are giving two different instructions in the same prompt for the AI assistant, so the assistant will sometimes get lost and
Okay.
will not perform well. So so that's why like I like very clean prompts, right? So um, you need to have the background. So background about the assistant, who he is,
Mhm.
background about the company, um, and then I like to add some FAQ or objection handling there, and then the script. Of course, the script part is probably one of the most important parts. So that's where I like to spend the biggest part of the prompt there. So the script, and then if I have any other like additional guidelines for the assistant, I add at the end. That's so like background, objection handling, script, and additional guidelines if needed.
Got it. Okay. And with the script in particular, do you give your assistants any leeway? So some people, there's like two kind of opposing views to this. It's a like a fixed script, as in say this, or there is say something like type prompt or type instruction. So that gives the AI a little bit more leeway in like the exact response. How do you go about that?
Yeah, I've used both ways, and you depend on the use case. So um, depending on, of course, if it's an outbound, if it's an inbound, if you have a very a strict type of for example, data extraction guidelines that you need to get out of the call, then I will use a fixed
Mhm.
kind of leadway or a fixed opening line in that sense.
Yep.
But whereas like in more like inbound, in more like lead qualification, depending on the case, then I can use an open open, let's say, opening, right? So that and I don't like to have like very strict rules when it comes to prompting, because it will depend on the use case for sure. So if you say like I only use fixed, strict opening lines, I would say okay, like, but you are sometimes you can sound a little bit more robotic if you're calling, especially if you are doing a lot of like multiple follow-up calls. It won't sound great, right? So that's why like it really depend on the use case. Sometimes for some workflows, what I do is I create two different assistants. One to do like the first call that's going to be more strict, and the other one to
Hmm.
do like the follow-up calls that's going to be more open, for example. So I've done
Okay.
that, and that tends to work well. For example, having like the first one with a male voice and the second one with a female voice. So, and with
That's
more
good,
like
yeah.
an open leadway. Yeah.
Yes, and also your information or knowledge base or prompt is siloed from each other, so then you don't have to fit it all in one assistant. It's good.
Yeah.
I like it. Cool. So just like recapping on that, if you're doing the strict information extractor questions, then it's more fixed questions, and then if it's more conversational, then you can be more loose with it.
Yeah.
Nice. And for one thing I found, and if you found the same, I think that like sentence length in terms of a script makes a big difference on how how conversational the prompt feels. So I found a few people, or a lot of people actually, write like these long sentences to say in the script because they look quite short when you write them down, but when you speak them, it ends up
Hmm.
like a 30-second message, and the person's just sometimes sat there. And you can
Yeah.
hear them just waiting for the AI to finish, or if you break up what you're trying to say into two parts, when the person thinks you're finished, then they try and cut in, and then it ends up that you're stepping over each other too. That's just one thing I found.
Yeah, I agree. I like shorter sentences, and also to allow more of a actually true personal conversation, not a dialogue, like, and not a, like a monologue. Sorry. So
Yeah.
like, and also to feel less as an AI, less robotic in that sense. Because if you're just talking, like, you sound more as an AI, in less as a actually human calling, having a conversation, asking questions. So I like to have this kind of back and forth with the lead.
Got it. All right, let's go. We've got one more question. I don't know if you can see this whole question on the screen. How do you handle redirections in calls where you reach a person on a lead number who's not responsible? Do you just let these leads go, or do you handle it with some sort of objection handling prompts combined with retrieving the person's details, creating a new lead, which is then called separately?
So when that happens, what I do is, for example, for that case, for the outbound campaign, we'll do follow-up calls, right? So and that helps. So you need to have a place where you can manage like the call step for each lead. So if I call one time and I'm not able to reach the lead, then instead of creating a new lead, what I do is I just mark, okay, like, let's do the follow-up call, and then that
Mhm.
would trigger the other scenario to call the second time, the third time, until we are able to talk to the lead.
Got it. How many follow calls do you do on like because I guess this is like a bit of a nurtury type scenario. How many before you say, okay, this lead is now like an inactive lead and we'll just flag that as a do not call or whatever field you're using?
Yeah, so I always recommend my clients to do up to 3 or 4 follow-up calls at max. But of course, that kind of will depend on the client. The client that I have client that they want to do more than that, like up to 10 follow-up calls. I think it's way too much. But of course, if the client wants to do that, I'll do that. But I always recommend to do up to 3 or 4, because I always like to put myself on my lead's shoes, and so I don't like to be very annoying. So it, like, in that case, like, it it doesn't matter if it's an AI voice agent or a person call. If like even a person call it 10 times, I think it's way too much,
Yeah,
right?
it's quite a lot.
So yeah, it's a lot. So, but yeah, it will depend on the client, but I think between 3 and 4, I think is the optimal um, sequence there.
Got it. Okay, I think I've maybe just lost my camera a second. Bear with me. But you can hope you can still hear me.
Yeah, I can.
Okay, cool. I think last question actually before we wrap up. What's currently missing in like voice AI at the moment in terms of like a technical setup, either natively in SynthFlow or in a scenario like Make? What's currently missing, and what do we need to do to make these assistants kind of 10x better than they are now?
Yeah, I would say like for me, the most important part is the actual call experience. For me, that's the important part, and I think it's definitely improving a lot when you compare to when I started using SyncFlow. I don't know, more than a year ago. Um, so I think that's the most important part, because if we focus on improving the call experience, the assistant able to handle different scenarios, like for example the background noise in some other cases, we're gonna have great outputs. And then with the outputs, as we have like the possibility to do custom APIs and webhooks, then we can do many different use cases. So I think like for me, that's the most important one. That's where I think, of course, as AI evolves, that's where I think the call experience will definitely keep up. And but yeah, I think like of course having like a voicemail drop and some other scenarios there. But I think for me that's the most important thing about the AI voice stage. To have a great experience, to have even if you're calling a cold lead, if you're calling a very warm client like lead
Mhm.
or an existing client, all of them should have a great experience during the call, and that for me is the most important part.
Yeah, got it. And are you using any custom actions inside of SynthFlow yourself? Have you built some go-tos, or are you just doing everything outside in Make and just doing the trigger the call?
Yeah, so I've used it before, but for the most part, I'm using outside of it, because especially if I'm, as I mentioned, as I tend to add an AI step after the course completed, and as because I'm always connecting to different systems like Salesforce,
Mhm.
ERPs, and some other ones. So yeah, I like to have like that flexibility as well to use outside of it.
Got it. Okay. Sorry, Ed, I just dropped off there. Hopefully you can hear me back again. We can wrap it there. Thanks for taking the time. I think that was really useful. The recordings will be straight up on YouTube and X, on LinkedIn, and we posted inside the Synthflow Academy, so everybody can watch it back. And this will be clipped up and posted over social. So yeah, I'd really appreciate it. Glad to have you guys as an implementation partner on Synthflow too. So anybody looking to work with you can do now. That's ace. And yeah, hopefully maybe we'll do another session sometime once you've got
Yeah.
a another monstrous case study you want to share with us.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate the time, Tom, and everybody. Was good to be here.
Great. Thanks, Ed. Thanks, everyone, for watching, listening to us, and hopefully catch you on the next one. See you later.
Thank you.
Bye. Okay, we are good. You might see an uploading sign, Ed, somewhere on your screen.